The stories contained in this podcast are the recollections of the guests we've invited onto the show. We are an outlet for people to share their truths, and we accept no legal responsibilities for the stories contained herein.
I'm Kendra Sheets.
And I'm Rich Gill.
And this is Enough, a podcast that aims to shine light into the darkened corners of the music industry while discussing the ways we can and should improve ourselves and, in turn, our community.
Welcome back to another episode of the Enough Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kendra Sheets.
I'm your other host, Rich Gill.
And today we have Caitlin Edwards on our podcast as our guest. Normally, right off the bat, I just kind of kick it over to the guest and say, tell us all about yourself and tell us how you got into music. But I would be at fault if I didn't give a little intro from my point of view about Caitlin. Let's see, we've known each other through music, I would say for at least 8 years now, probably, maybe more.
Oh yeah, probably even more. I'm like trying to remember where we even first met, but it had to be
at a show. It had to be at a show. Yeah,
at a show somewhere in the scene.
But Caitlin is in. She has a solo project. She is in a band called Bumsy and the Moochers. That came across my radar back before ska got openly cool again. Where I was like, people are in ska bands, and then a year later, I'm like, everybody loves ska again. Okay, cool. And then the other thing that you've done, which is just epic and awesome, is you co-created a festival called Punk the Burbs Fest, which is just this mega awesome thing that existed for, was it 4 years?
5 years.
5, okay.
Yeah.
And it was just outside of Chicago, and it had really great local bands from just the Chicago land area, so in the city, outside of the city. And you even brought in, I know Tsunami Bomb played one year. They came all the way from California, which was awesome. Yeah, and it just, it became this really great thing. And besides being kind of a catalyst and beacon in the music scene, you are also a music therapist. And that is where I kick it over to you, because I don't know a lot about that anymore. So you're going to be educating us today about music therapy and kind of the ins and outs of how everything works. So if you, Caitlin, can give us a little intro about yourself, what got you into music in general, kind of punk and ska, how you became who you are today.
All right. Well, yes. So my name is Caitlin Edwards, and yeah, I've loved music even as a little kid. I was always I do remember taking my dad's Ibanez electric guitar and making up songs at 6, 7 years old. I was already in it. And then it wasn't until I was 10 where, a lot of that fourth grade, fifth grade time where, they introduce, okay, what instrument do you want to play? Do you want to be an orchestra or band? So yeah, I think I was around 10 at the time. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to try violin. I wanted to do the drums, but I don't think they were offering it. So I was like, well, I'm going to try strings, next best thing. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I chose the violin. So I played the violin all throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, college, just classically trained, learned how to read music. But in middle school, when I turned 13, I wanted to get into more of rock music because that was, of course, the music that I love the most, especially punk rock, pop punk, alternative. I wanted to play more of that music, and I really wanted to write music too. So once again, I was taking out my dad's electric guitar and pretty much learning guitar on my own. I would watch music videos. I would watch the Green Day International Super Hits music videos, the Offspring Greatest Hits music video DVDs. Strangely enough, the Smash Mouth music video at the end of the Shrek DVD. And I would watch how their hands would move on the guitar. And that's how I was a visual learner. I kind of learned guitar that way. And then I would also learn by CD. I would slightly unplug the CD and you hear just the guitar, no vocals, and just slightly unplugging the headphones. And that's how I learned how to play power chords. I would listen to Nimrod, Dookie, and Smash, and that's how I learned guitar. But I think because I already knew violin, that's how I just learned guitar so quickly. And then, when I was 14, I started my first pop punk band, the Fizzy Pops, and it was a great time. I played it throughout my high school years and a little bit into college, but then that band was obviously kind of breaking up. And then that's when I called Chris Ronspies, a drummer in the local scene, and I asked him like, hey, I'm kind of leaving this band and I still want to play music because I just love playing music. Hey, want to do a band? And he goes, yeah, but can we also make it ska? I'm like, sure, why not? This is going to be hard. I've never done ska, but let's see. And so that's why early Bumsy was a little interesting, but we got better over time the more we played it. And so, yeah, the rest is history. Bumsy and the Moochers took off from there. But as far as music therapy goes, when I was in high school and I was trying to decide, okay, I know I want to have a career in music. And I've always been a fond believer of do what you love, you never work a day in your life kind of thing. So I was like, what do I want to do? And then there was this girl in my orchestra class in high school, and she goes, hey, she was 1 year ahead of me. She's like, yeah, I'm going to major in music therapy. I was like, music therapy? What's that? And I often was like, you know what? I want to do music, but I want us to do something that helps people. Because music also, it wasn't just something fun I like to do. Music also helped me because I struggled with anxiety. When I was 14 years old, I had just crippling anxiety, even into my early 20s. And music was my medicine, my safe haven, my thing that helped me, especially through the anxious times and anxiety. It helped me understand what was going on. It helped me feel not so alone. So I was like, you know what? Music has done so much for me and has helped me. I want to give that back. And when I heard about music therapy, I'm like, oh, what better career? That is like right up my alley. Even my family and friends were like, Caitlin, that's you. And to this day, people are like, that's so you. When I tell people, like people I went to high school with, what do you do now? Music therapy. They're like, that's so you. So then I dived right in and I looked into a bunch of colleges, but Western Illinois University out in Macomb, out in the McCorn, Illinois, that was the school that offered music therapy. And that's where I got my bachelor's in music therapy. So I guess this is kind of where I talk also about what music therapy is and how the heck did I get here as a music therapist? How did I get this amazing career? So when I found out about music therapy, I discovered this is the definition of it. It is music therapy is a clinical and evidence-based use of music interventions to accomplish individualized goals within a therapeutic relationship by a credentialed professional who has completed an approved music therapy program. Music therapy interventions can address a variety of healthcare and educational goals, and just a few to name it because there's so many. Promote wellness, manage stress, express feelings, enhance memory, improve communication, promote physical rehabilitation. So that is the American Music Therapy Association definition right there. I wanted to give you guys that. But so then now I know what it is. How the heck do I become one? So yeah, found out, you got to get it is a program where you must earn a bachelor's degree or higher in a music therapy approved program by the American Music Therapy Association. Curriculum is pretty heavy. It's a music major. Music majors are not easy. Probably one of the hardest ones out there. I'm not just learning music classes. We have music coursework. We learn about music therapy, yes. But we also learn biology, psychology, sociology, behavioral sciences. We learn about different percussion instruments. We have to take piano courses. We have to take vocal courses. Some people have to take guitar courses. I didn't. I fast-tracked out of those classes. I already knew guitar, so that helped. And you also have to be in at least one music ensemble, whether that's choir, band, or orchestra. So on top of all this coursework, I also had to be in orchestra, especially to keep my talent grant as well. I was actually in 2 ensembles. I think most semesters I was taking 21 to 22 credit hours. It's very heavy. It's very in-depth, but it's great. If you love it, it's great. But there were times where it was hard, not going to lie. If you love it, if the love is there, if the desire is there, you'll do just fine.
It really does sound like they're splitting the coursework kind of down the middle. You have the music side and then you have the therapy side. And then eventually I'm sure there's some classes that just bring the two together. So you're getting kind of it's not quite a left brain, right brain, but like side A, side B. And then all of a sudden they just get woven together and you're like, okay, now I'm accredited in this. I can go do this.
There's also, it says you need clinical skills are developed through 1,200 hours of required field work. So while I was in college, I had to do field work while I was taking all these
I just finished field work. I never again will I work for free.
Yeah, right. Oh, and get ready because there's more free work that you have to do for some internship because there's also an internship. But yeah, after I would do clinicals, field work in the community of Macomb. So I would work with adults with intellectual disabilities or children with autism, intellectual disabilities, Down syndrome. And you'd also have to do that coursework or that clinical work while also doing classes and ensembles. And then after you graduate, then you have to do an internship, which is 6 months. Typically also, you're not getting paid. The only music therapy music therapy internships I'm aware of that do pay or give a stipend is hospice, where you have to travel. So they do reimburse for gas, but some places are like that. Sometimes not. Mine, I was in one facility. I worked with adults with intellectual disabilities, developmental disabilities. It was kind of like a vocational place where adults can go, after they finish school. But that was a great place. Annixter Center, shout out. That was a great internship. But it's free work for 6 months. And then you have to do the board certified music therapy exam. I believe it was like 100 questions you have to answer in 3 hours? I think so. 100 questions. You have to pass that. And you cannot practice music therapy until you pass that credential exam. Once you pass that, then you can practice as a music therapist, board certified music therapist. In 2022, all Illinois music therapists must be licensed. So not only do we have to get that board certified exam credential, we also have to be licensed. And so now my official title is licensed professional music therapist. And I love adding that credential now because I'm like, yes, I've always seen myself, most of us therapists, we see ourselves as that anyway, because it's like board certified, we deserve a licensure. I mean, we're just as, we're doing just as much work and we have just as much research and evidence base, as recreational therapy, art therapy, dance therapy, occupational therapy. But yeah, that is how you become a music therapist and what it is.
That's crazy because that journey is and that's with a bachelor's. That is so similar to what I just completed with a master's, with all of the internship and the field hours. And for a bachelor's program, it sounds like they put you through some stuff.
Yeah. I'm like, sometimes I feel like, man, this could have been a master's as well. But yes, you can earn a master's and doctorate in music therapy.
21 hours is a lot too. Your coursework is heavy. Plus you have to slap on the hours and the internship, and it seems like a lot.
Can you come out to the bars tonight, Caitlin? No,
yeah,
I have rehearsal and then I have to practice.
So once you go through all this and you're able to, you get certified, and can you sort of walk us through like what a session looks like?
Yeah. So for me, I've worked in many different settings, but mainly I've worked in the inpatient psychiatric setting. And I will say too, music therapists, another thing I forgot to mention is we can work in schools, prisons, hospice, to many different hospitals, many different units. But for me, I mostly have worked in inpatient psychiatric units, and typical interventions, we might do songwriting, we might do drum circles, we might do song and lyric analysis, music listening. There are other times where, I try to put other types of activities into my groups, like movement activities. I will, do a little bit of chair yoga or exercise, morning stretching. Sometimes we do meditation, guided nature meditation. I put a little art in the group. I'm not an art therapist. I don't do like art therapy groups, but sometimes I will include art in my sessions as well, because as we know, people, especially in mental health settings, express themselves in many ways creatively, and art is also a great avenue. But sometimes I'll combine that with the music. But music therapy specifically, yeah, we'll do all those other interventions I just mentioned. And I might do some psychoeducation with that as well. Drum circles are some of my favorite. Sometimes patients, when they come into an inpatient unit, they can feel very overwhelmed, anxious, stressed. I mean, this is not a good experience, but they are here for help. And first things first is safety and stabilization with working in inpatient psych. And I try to meet them where they're at. I try to do groups that, focus a lot on coping tools, maybe even using those coping tools right then and there. A lot of patients, maybe they might be intimidated at first. Like, I don't play an instrument, but percussion is very accessible, using djembes and bongos and bells and shakers. They're more accessible, and a lot of people have maybe experience with that in childhood, and they say, "Oh, this reminds me of childhood," and that could just being in music class, that opens the gate. But what I do is I'll do an introduction to what those instruments are. I let patients kind of choose the instruments. Then I'll do fun little games with them, something that's kind of to introduce to start off easy, doing copycat. I play something, you play the same thing back. And then I love doing improvisation. And that's where I really see a lot of patients really express themselves, especially the emotions they might be feeling at that moment. And I'll be like, all right, improv means free play. No need to feel like you need to play a certain way. There's no wrong way to play. You can tap on the side of the instrument. Heck, you can tap on your chair. You can clap your hands. Do whatever you want. Let's just go with the flow and see what happens. Let's be in the moment. And for a good maybe 5 to 8 minutes, it depends. We just go with the vibe, how long I do it. And then I do a countdown to end the improv. And then I'm like, hey, all right, let's talk about have a discussion. And then patients will say, man, that let me let out some emotions that I was feeling right now. My anxiety, it let me let out my anger. It let me let out my frustration. It reminded me of being a kid again. Or Caitlin, I wasn't thinking about anything else. I wasn't thinking about how much I want to go home. I wasn't thinking about all the stressors I have in my life, my mental illness, anything. I was being in the moment. I was anchoring in the present. I love that. I say that a lot. And so that's just maybe just a little deep dive into one of my favorite interventions I love to do. Song analysis too. That's another one. That's another great one. I love to bring songs. There's this one song I love to bring by Coily Ray called Anxiety. And it's all about how this woman deals with anxiety in good and bad ways in a song. And I have patients in not analyzing it. Like, what do you think the message is of this song? Did you guys underline or circle some of the negative ways she's dealing with her anxiety or depression? Now underline some of the positive ways she is. What are some lyrics that may have related to you or that you kind of connected with? So I love doing song analysis too. I also love bringing out the guitar. That is like the music therapist staple too, just bringing out my acoustic guitar. I swear the minute live music happens, it is a magic. A great intervention I like to do too is just I bring out all the songs I know from my big songbook. Music therapists, we are drilled in college to learn as many songs as possible and memorize them because you can't be looking down at your music. And I'm like, guys, take a look at all my songs here. Now pick a song that you want to hear. I'm going to play it on guitar. And then after I play it, let's talk about it. How did it make you feel? What did it make you think? I'll also put instruments out on the table. Play along with me, guys. Play along with me to this song. We might play Purple Rain by Prince, Under the Bridge by Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jelly Roll Save Me. I mean, it's anything. That's the thing too. Music therapists, we got to play it all, whether you like that music or not. So you learn it all, you play it all. And what's amazing is some of my patients who have had schizophrenia, live music does this thing where it decreases the auditory and maybe even visual hallucinations that the patient is having. And seeing that in real time is just incredible. There's a lot of patients who, you'll see them talking to themselves. They're very internally preoccupied. Patients have come to me with tears in their eyes. Like, I don't want to listen to these voices. I don't want to have these thoughts. They want to, be well. And that's a very hard disease that they're dealing with. But to see music, live music, just take away those voices, take away those auditory hallucinations and just have them be in the moment and have fun and have a conversation afterwards. The live music did that, just help them bring them to a peaceful place, a calm place is just so amazing to see. I'll never forget. And that was actually one of the first interventions too I did. The first job I worked at straight out of college when I worked at Glen Oaks, I worked in the intensive psychiatric unit with a lot of patients who had schizophrenia. And I remember just playing My Girl by The Temptations. And it was like the whole room, and most of these patients, they were dealing with schizophrenia. The whole room, we were singing, we were laughing, we were playing. They were so engaged. And it was just, I'm like, this is like magic. It's amazing. So there you go. A little deep dive into just some of the amazing interventions used in psych. So it's great.
It's interesting that you mentioned the schizophrenia thing, because Wesley Willis famously, like, that's why he became a musician, was to quiet the demons in his head,
Yes.
as he would say. So, yeah.
This is actually backed by research. And frequently I'll hear the doctors, after they've talked to me when we have our meetings, the doctors even recommend to our patients with schizophrenia, hey, listen to music, play live music if you want to, learn an instrument, because there is research that backs that live music in particular can be great at reducing auditory visual hallucinations, especially auditory ones for sure, but live music especially. So it's great.
You have like huge music teacher energy. You remind me of every music teacher I've ever had who just, I mean, like, I've never had a music teacher who didn't like what they were doing, and they were so excited to like show you things. And as you were talking about like the percussion circle, I was remembering like back when I was in like, I don't know, probably, middle school or lower than that. We used to have all of the little tiny drums. As being an adult and thinking back on that time, it kind of reminded me before the pandemic, and then like everything moved online, I got really into this like form of workout called pound, and basically you have drumsticks and you're doing like a lot of dance moves to the drumsticks and you're pounding on the ground a lot, so you're doing a ton of squats and you get like super ripped, and you don't know you're doing it because it's like to like Carly Rae Jepsen. There's like all these dance moves and things, and you're following someone and you get
Yes.
used to like having
Yes.
almost like a dance routine with these drumsticks. And so like one of the things that like during COVID, I was looking into like just how percussion like functions, because I was like, I'm not like mega depressed. My anxiety seems to be, I mean, it's high because it's COVID, but it's not like crazy high. Like I know where it is. It should be worse is what I was thinking. And it turns out that like percussion, similar to what you were saying with just music in general, there's like a genetic, like inherent connection that we have when we're like forming percussion circles with other people, even if it's online. The fact that you're creating music with someone else, it decreases your stress, it decreases your anxiety, it forms bonds of connections and social ties. Like thousands and thousands of years ago, when humans were like sitting around doing drum circles and like singing and playing music together, and it like ties people together. And then you were talking about going into like live music in general, and how it was, affecting people with schizophrenia. And I was thinking about like what it's like to go to a show, and like what goes through my mind and what doesn't go through my mind, and kind of how I have like, for me personally, I have like a split brain where like I'm very much in the moment, but I'm also like cycling through other things. And sometimes a certain song will bring up a memory which I'm thinking of while I'm watching the show. Like it's all very connective. And I can see like, as you're talking about this, knowing the little bit I know, going through, social work school and working with people, with depression and anxiety and substance use issues, kind of how all of this can be like moving for certain people just because of how a brain functions, and how music in general kind of almost like latches on to certain parts of your brain in a positive way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the social part too, because that's also another huge goal with music therapists. We don't want to overlook, especially in psych. A lot of these folks, they don't have, they'll say, I don't really have a big support system, or I just want somebody to talk to. And yeah, those drum circles, man, does it start the chatter going. I mean, everybody gets more social. People are complimenting each other. People are laughing. You're like, oh, I thought about that too. Music has been around forever. Drum circles have been around forever with the shaman and Native Americans, African American cultures. So but yeah, it gets people talking, it gets people social, it gets people out of their rooms, it gets people out of their isolation, and it's like, it shows people like, hey, yeah, you're not alone. But yeah, I'm the same way too, Kendra, at live concerts when I'm like processing things too, but then I'm like, I'm so in the moment with the music.
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
And then like if someone comes up to me and they're trying to talk to me, I'm like, I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
Like, get.
I'm like, I tell people, like, whenever it's a favorite band I'm seeing, I'm like, don't look at me. Don't look at me. Like, when I was at Riot Fest, or when I saw Downtown Struts like a week ago or whatever, I was like telling people who don't really know me that was there with me. They were kind of like new friends, and I'm like, don't look at me. I'm having a moment.
Yeah, I have the same thing now, more so like post-pandemic, I don't know if it's because of like therapy, podcast, the fact that like music is like a thing that I engage in that like a very different way now, because I'm not like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I guess I'll just go to a show 5 nights a week because that's what I do, whatever. And now I'm like, it's a special thing. Music, it can be taken away and we might not have this again. But like at every show I go to now, I'm just like hysterically crying in the corner at this point. Like I will cry at almost every show. And I texted my friend, I was like, I saw AFI recently and I was like, dude, I'm crying during like the dumbest song to cry. This is like the Tony Hawk song. This isn't even the good song. And then my friend was like, remember when you used to make fun of everyone who used to get emotional at shows? Like, well, who are you? And I'm like, I don't know.
We've become what we made fun of. It's so true.
It's
Same,
so
girl.
special.
Same.
I 100% do the same thing. Music can affect you in such a way where it's just like, I don't know what this person was thinking when they wrote this song, or whatever, but I'm like bawling because of, what it means to me.
Oh, I've seen patients cry during songs that, okay, this is a tearjerker kind of song, but I've seen patients cry over songs where I'm like, this was Happy by Pharrell, or this was Purple Rain by Prince.
Why am I crying at the Descendants? Like,
why am I crying at why am I crying at Superman, Goldfinger? Right. What? Like
Days of the Phoenix is not a song to cry during, but I was hysterical. And I was like, I did fall into yesterday. Those dreams, they seem far away. Like a line can get you, and then all of a sudden it's about you, right? Like we're all living our realities, which is why I think it was so interesting when you were talking about basically having them like deconstruct the songs and talk about like what song was important to them, or like what each line meant, or what did they think about
song
all
analysis,
that.
Yeah, lyric analysis, song analysis,
yeah. That is such a like beautiful therapist trick.
Oh yeah.
You think they're just like listening to a song, but like you're really reading everything that's like going into everything that they say, and you're getting like a really good on like who they are, where they're at, and like what's going on with them.
They open up more.
So as you know, many of our listeners are survivors of abuse in the music industry. And, I've talked about this before. I think Rich has mentioned this as well. Like pre-podcast, we knew a lot of things. We felt a lot of things. We tried to kind of avoid certain bands or people or whatever. Then podcast hit, and both of us kind of like, in addition to it being like still kind of COVID-y, we really just kind of went from like 11 down to 0 of like going to shows, engaging. Like we removed ourselves. I think Rich less so than me. I basically ghosted like the entire Chicago music scene and stopped leaving the house for a while before I even went into grad school, because I just didn't know how I could engage with something that I felt was so traumatizing to so many people, and including myself, introspectively look at things that had happened to me over the course of the last 20 plus years and was like, wow, this has really injured me in a lot of ways. How could something like music therapy work with like supporting the people who have experienced trauma, even if the trauma's connected deeply to music or a music scene or something like that?
When it comes to trauma, in my setting in particular, some patients will share their trauma in groups. I am not licensed to do trauma therapy in particular, because it's a particular license, especially there's so many different type of trauma therapy treatments that you should be licensed in. Trauma, typically, especially the therapy, it's 1-to-1. Sometimes though, they might share trauma in group, or there have been patients that have wanted to talk to me before or after group and share that trauma. And, I listen to them. I thank them for sharing something like that and being so brave to share something like that, because it is not easy. But I tell my patients, hey, thank you for sharing this with me. And what I can do further is I can provide, myself and the social workers can provide resources where you can work on this trauma further, an environment that can serve you better, and with somebody who's licensed to work in this. But thank you for sharing, because I think that's the first step too, especially when you experience trauma. It's just to be able to share it. That's the first step of trying to work through it. So I'm like, yes, I'm glad you did that. What music therapy can provide, there are some groups I do that help with PTSD, like the symptoms of PTSD, flashbacks. One music therapy intervention in particular I like to use is the I call it the songwriting / 5 4 3 2 1 grounding technique. Kendra, you might be aware of this. I hate calling it grounding technique. I like calling it more anchor and present because grounding is like, ooh, you bad child.
Yeah.
But I hate therapy and terminology is forever changing. We know this. But what I do is I play What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong because I feel like that song kind of embodies the 5 4 3 2 1 technique. Like, look around you. What a wonderful world. I see trees of green. I hear. And then what I do is, after I play that song, I take the song and I take the words out and I basically have the patients do Mad Lib songwriting. Hey, let's rewrite this song. Tell me right now, what do you see around you? What does your world currently look like? What do you hear around you currently at the moment? How does it make you feel? And then what I do is I play that patient song on guitar to the tune of What a Wonderful World. Or sometimes patients just want me to read it like it's a poem. Sometimes it's funny. Patients are like, yep, I see things I don't want to see in here that might not be pleasant. I hear screams, sometimes. And then I'm eating crappy food. It gets funny. But then there's other times where it gets serious and patients are like, you know what? I'm feeling anxiety. I'm hearing things that I don't want to hear and it's making me feel anxious. Or some patients will be like, hey, I'm feeling more positive today because I'm hearing music in group and I'm seeing all these lovely faces. So it's just a great way to get discussion going, but also using that grounding technique. And then I show patients, all right, let's practice this grounding technique without the music. You guys just practiced this anchor and present technique with music. Let's practice it without it. And I talk about what this grounding technique is, 5 4 3 2 1. It can help patients who have anxiety, patients who are feeling stressed, who are feeling angry, or it can help with PTSD flashbacks. This grounding technique helps people bring them back into the moment, bring them back into the present. Because oftentimes, with flashbacks, they might be having a memory or something from the past that's unpleasant and very traumatic. And yeah, this technique can help ground them into the present moment. So that's just when I think about, okay, what I can do as a music therapist, I can maybe help with some of the symptoms of PTSD, but as far as deep diving into their trauma and working through it, in my setting, we're meant to just kind of give them supportive resources so they can work on that further out there.
Balancing your role as like a musician in your outside therapy life and also a musician in your therapy life. How do those sort of overlap, or how do you balance them? Do you ever find them coming at odds with each other, or just it's all music all the time?
Man, it's a little bit of both. I've been just doing music my whole life. And the truth is, sometimes it can be difficult because I got to just remember to self-care, take those moments, remind myself hey, Caitlin, music therapy is important. This is what pays the bills of my career, but save time for your music. When you get home from work, just jump right into that song. Don't lay in bed right away or watch a shitty TV show. Just work on that song. You got to push, because it's sometimes that's all you want to do after your job. Just lay down and then, or the weekends.
How do you not burn out? All you do is music stuff. Is there not a point where you're just fuck, I want to do something completely different than this one thing. Even though they're all very different versions of the one thing.
It's crazy because it's how I not burn out is also music. It's listening to music, using it as my therapy.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know, I'm such a, it's so predictable, but it's so true. But then also there's other things I do. I'm on a softball league. I like to stay active. I like to make sure I exercise, whether it's if I'm going to the gym or sometimes just walking around the block like I just did before this interview, making sure to spend time with my friends and family. That's a huge thing. Self-care is important. Music therapist. We've had many conference meetings and seminars and discussions on this. How do music therapists do self-care? Because our jobs are very stressful. And yes, music could be our self-care, but let's make sure we're also doing other things. Let's make sure we're, hey, if we need to talk to a therapist, that's okay. Spend time with our family and friends. Make time for other hobbies. And PTO, of course, I know that I'm always save your PTO for this tour, Caitlin. Sometimes I want to use it so bad just to take a mental health day, but I'm like, you're saving it for the next tour, but it's a balance. I was going to say, Kendra, to answer your question too, you mentioned, what if somebody's trauma has to do with the music scene? It's such a good question, because like, what if music was that was your safe haven, that was your source, that was your coping tool, that was your everything, and then something happened to you in the scene, and now that's the source of trauma.
Well, and along the same lines of that, you mentioned you play like popular songs and stuff. What if one of the songs that you play is like triggering to someone because that was playing when something happened, or, something like that?
That has happened too. And sometimes it's just, yeah, you learn it in the moment, like, oops, I just, I hit a trigger there. And then sometimes a patient needs to take a moment, and that's okay. I'm like, hey, I tell my patients, if anything is triggering this group, whether it be the music or what we're talking about, practice that self-care. Take that moment to, if you need to leave the room, or if you need to get a water, take a break, talk to another staff member, that's okay. And I always tell my patients, hey, after group, if you want to talk with me too, I'll be here. Because that's another thing that might happen where, we bring a song that we think, oh, this is a great group idea, and it might be triggering. See, a lot of my patients, like I said, their traumas it could be anything from childhood, sexual trauma, physical trauma, abandonment. Not many patients have discussed maybe trauma in the music scene, but I do know it exists out there. Trauma, it's so difficult. And it's like, hey, when you're ready to get that help, talk with a therapist, find the best one that works for you, especially one that deals with that type of trauma. Because there's so many therapists now too that deal with specific type of traumas, specific type of therapy treatments. EMDR, am I pronouncing it?
Oh, yes.
Right. Thank you, Kendra. I'm asking you because I'm going to be honest here. This is something also that I'm working on more. For my continuing education, because music therapists, we have to take continuing education classes. As you know, Kendra, we have to get credit hours. And something that I'm working on is just learn more about trauma, just in general, just learn more about trauma, how patients might experience it, what treatments are available, so that I can provide those resources to patients. And EMDR is one, exposure therapy. And these are things that, obviously I can't practice with my patients. I'm not licensed, but it has come up in groups. And I say, you know what, look into that. Talk with your social worker about that. See if there's a therapist in your area that can work on that with you. And that's something that I would recommend too for people who have maybe dealt with trauma in the music scene. Like I said, get that therapy, get that help, because this was something that was special to you. Music was something that was special to you. It was a safe haven. And this person, this situation shouldn't take that away from you, shouldn't ruin that for you. I always hope that people who have had trauma in the music scene, I hope that they're able to come back to it one day, because music is just, at the end of the day, it's so powerful. It can help process that trauma too. Yes, it could be a place of hurt, but yeah, let's start working out. Let's get that therapy. And then let's go back and realize, hey, this can also be a help. This can also be where we can regain our power back. Start a band. Start writing music. I tell my patients, I'm like, listen, like, cause some of them will be like, Caitlin, I want to play guitar now. I feel like I like to write. Maybe I want to write it. Yeah. Like, start writing poetry, music, express through art. Yes, this music scene, what happened, this was a source of a trauma, but this can also be your way out. This can also be your source of healing. Start a zine, start a podcast. Building community too. Like I was thinking about this, and I'm like, and when you have a good music community where people are not being competitive and you're going to each other's shows and you're promoting each other's shows, you're going out to the bars, you're doing punk rock softball. That was another thing I started. I started a little punk rock softball thing a few years back.
There's a punk baseball thing in Minneapolis that has been going on for 20 years probably.
I want to start, let's do something with each other in the broad daylight. We see each other at night all the time. Like,
not in a dark bar.
Not in a dark, dingy bar. Like, let's see each other in broad daylight for once. And have some fun. Do something where, we're playing music on a Bluetooth speaker, but we're having softball, we're having fun. Do things like that, because when you build a good music community, I feel that you can find your tribe that way. You can get more comfortable because, as we know, the music scene, unfortunately, there's just abusers and predators. And it's like, how can we find our tribe? How can we find our safe space, our community? And yeah, do more things together, go to each other's shows, like I said, outings and stuff like that, build trust, hang out.
And we've talked about this before. There's the music scene, which is what I thought I wanted to be part of, like as a kid, right? You're like, oh, I can't wait to like move to a big city where all the people are cool, and I'll go to shows all the time, and I'll write about them, and I'll be a journalist for music, and I'll be part of like the landscape of Chicago or wherever. Like LA was my thing for a while too. Like, this is what I want, the music scene. It's a scene. It's not a community, and that's the difference. When you're using them, you're kind of using them interchangeably. I think there's a huge difference between the two. I was searching for a community the entire time, and I was like, can we hang out on the weekend? And they're like, yeah, I'll see you at the show. And I was like, okay. I wanted a friend. And I got like,
can we be friends? Yeah.
Right. Like, I was looking for friends, and I got like people I ran into like 6 times a week instead. They're acquaintances that I became very familiar with, and I was looking for like deep friendships. And I had to kind of like reorient and be like, we can hang out outside of going to the same like crew of shows at the same 6 bars on the north side of Chicago. Like, I can see you for lunch sometime. Like, we can be friends.
I will always love pop punk. Near and dear to my heart, it's my genre. But I will tell you. I know, right? I know. Sorry. I know. I gotta be honest. I'm like, I love the music, even though it's, oh God, the people in it are problematic as fuck. I will always just love punk rock in general, music. That's music in general. I love it all. I love hip hop. I love electronic. I love all this type of music. But when I was growing up in, Fizzy Pop's early 2000s scene, yeah, great time. But you know what? It was gatekeepy. It was a fucking boys club and testosterone-filled mosh pits. You want to open up for this band? Do you know this guy from this label and this guy from this? Being a woman in the early 2000s pop punk scene, oh man, did it suck. I feel at least for me, I just felt like, yeah, it was still this boys club shit. But then as soon as I got into the ska scene, and I'm not saying the ska scene, it's not without its problems, but I am telling you, I have never felt more safe, more welcome, more feeling of community. There's none of that competitive bullshit. Maybe, and once again, I'm speaking, this is my experience, but I just didn't feel the competitive boys club shit that the pop punk scene had. I felt like we're all together, especially the Midwest ska scene. Oh my God, like we're all homies. We talk about it all. We hang out sometimes. We tour together, play shows, and the mosh pits are more friendly and safe. Like when I was at the Dance Hall Crashers mosh pit at Riot Fest, oh my God, I saw all the homies there. We were talking, we were dancing. I felt like I wasn't going to die from a bro with a shirt off yelling Dropkick Murphy shit. Like I was like, let's go. Like that was why that was my favorite moment in Riot Fest, because it was like so feeling of community, so safe, so comfortable, so fun, how it's supposed to be.
Every thing that gives me like warm fuzzies about, like every memory I have about music that makes me want to come back show after show and talk to the same people and give everyone hugs is a sense of community. Never once do I have a fuzzy memory of like ousting someone from a group or feeling ousted from, like, it's always when you look around and like, you listen to those lyrics and you're like, they wrote that about me. That's my community. Those are my people. And they understand what I'm dealing with as a sassy 16-year-old girl or whatever.
Just going to people's shows more now that I'm able to go to more shows easier. Yeah. I'm able to see kind of like a great community group I'm seeing in Chicago now. I'm seeing a lot more women, femme, queer, trans, people of color, seeing a lot more of that. And it brings a tear to my eye. I just, I talk about it with some other friends that I grew up in the scene with. And I'm like, man, this is how it was supposed to be. I wish it was like this, in the early 2000s, because I just feel like, yeah, it's just such a fucking boys club. And now I feel it's so much better, like the Chicago metal community, the punk community, the ska community. I feel like it's, like I said, not without its problems, but I feel like it's better than it was. I feel like just people are a lot more open-minded, and I'm seeing it a lot more diverse. It's not, a bunch of white dudes on stage.
as someone who grew up in the 90s, going to a lot of like ska shows, my first band was a ska band. So I've been like
I
a
was waiting
lifelong
for you to drop that.
unapologetic.
I wanted to mention that, Rich. I'd heard that in previous episodes, and I'm like, I got to bring this up. But go ahead.
But, that was the cool thing about going to ska shows was there were bands like, the Toasters and Hepcat and Save Ferris and No Doubt, Skink and Pickle, who it was like multiracial, multi-gender.
Yes.
Like it wasn't just a bunch of white guys. It was everybody.
Yeah, there's just abundance of diversity and people bringing different sounds from different cultures. Ska, too. I feel like you not only can insert punk in there, you can insert hip hop. I've heard
jazz,
heavy metal, and it just works. It's goofy, but then when you're there, you're like, wait, this fucking works. Where it's just like, not all genres can do that. Man, just ska just can really expand.
Kind of getting off the Sky train and going back towards music therapy. What do you think is the role that music itself and then like creative expression can play in transforming the culture into something that's more safe, more supportive, more uplifting for people?
As cheesy as this might sound, just remember the power of music. That is also mainly why I got into music therapy, was because I knew that music could be just as powerful as a medication, as a conversation. It is so powerful and so strong. And it brings about connections. Connections so strong and a power so strong that it could save a life. I've seen it in front of my own eyes. I have seen it up close and personal with patients and friends. Music literally like saving a life. A patient told me not too long ago, oh, after you played Let It Be by the Beatles on guitar, it made me think that my life is worth living and I have hope now. And it's like, whoa. Or I'll never forget when a patient who was recovering from addiction on heroin, I didn't get to see him before he discharged, but he left a little Post-it note in my guitar case that said, thank you, Caitlin. Like, this inspired me to play guitar more. Seeing you play guitar in groups and it, and allowing me to play guitar again in groups, this made me want to pick up my guitar more and use it as a coping skill in my recovery. So yes, get involved in it. Recently, I had a family member of mine. He took his own life and he struggled with addiction and he struggled with childhood trauma. And some of my dearest moments with him, just some of my dearest memories, are talking about music. And I remember one time he called me when I think I was just getting out of college. He was living in Georgia, and I was like, Kate, man, I see you posting about your band all the time. And he's like, I got a friend he's really into reggae and ska, and he's going to release an album, and, you guys should do a tour or something like that. He kind of wanted to like help me do more with my band. And I always saw him like posting about my band and, but we kind of fell out of touch, because might have been because of stuff he was going through, his addiction. After he passed, I looked at his social media and I was just kind of looking at it. And like some of his posts were, he posted about my band and he loved talking about music. And I just remember being at family parties and talking about music and talking about the music we loved and what concerts we saw recently. And we would just connect on that. And after, he passed, I would think to myself, like, man, I wish I could have talked to him one more time. I wish he called me. Maybe we could have talked and I could have told him like how important and amazing he is. And then be like, all right, let's talk about music, man. You're here to stay. You're amazing. You're important. And it will get better. Let's talk music now. That could save a life. Tell someone, you love them. Tell someone that things will get better. Tell someone that, they are important and they are special and they leave an impact on this world. And then talk about the stuff you love. And I think that's what's going to keep us together and keep us here. And just know the power of music and know that it can just build strong connections and it could keep someone here on this earth. It's so powerful.
Enough is a podcast centering on surviving abuse, harassment, and assault in the music scene. To help get the word out, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. In 2025, we are interested in talking to teachers, authors, artists, activists, counselors, community organizers, and anyone else who is dedicated to making a positive impact in their music community and our society as a whole. If that sounds like you, please reach out to us at thisisenoughpodcast@gmail.com.